Can you change his name? You can change his name, right?
I can. He's a cheeky bastard, but this is funny. Well played. Just for the listener there, Daz has joined the call and changed his Zoom name to Your Boss. He's already came on and owned the two of us in his opening moment. He's not said a fucking word. Well played, Daryl.
How's it going?
Not
Good,
bad,
man, you?
brother.
Yeah, good to see you both. Lovely to see you both. Apologies, I felt after the last episode's abuse, I felt I should come on and give a fair representation of myself.
You nailed it. Well played.
Yeah.
Mate, you've done a typo though. It should be Your Boss, no?
You're what's happening? Nice to see you both.
Likewise,
You too, man.
likewise. You're looking well.
Having a beer? Having a dram? What are you drinking?
Yes, I am having a little beer at the moment. It is, it's 8:15 here in Edinburgh. I don't know what time it is in Speyside, Mitch.
Well, we're 2 hours ahead of you, right?
Aye, 20 years behind the rest of us.
It was almost a wee jinx moment there. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. What's been happening at your end, guys? Busy week, lots of goings on.
Very. I've ran home, so thanks first and foremost for coming on a little bit later tonight. I literally landed from Houston less than an hour ago and drove home and came straight on here. Well, that's a lie. As Mitch saw, I had a piece of chocolate cake and ice cream because I've not eaten anything to eat all day because I was up early to get my flight.
Is that part of your 5 a day, mate?
My blood sugar just tanked. Like, I'm going to come on here and be like, what do you want, Daryl?
why are you coming back? What's
exactly. What do you want? Like, tell us about your whiskey, mate. Right?
Yeah, totally. Mate, how was Houston? I've been to Houston a couple of times. And some great bars, good restaurants and stuff in Houston as well, man.
Great bars.
Yeah.
I was in a bar called IKTO. I know the owner. Superb. Oh no, cheeky, right? I quite like that. So IKTO, I know the owner. And great little spot in downtown Houston. A couple of events with Total Wine and More as well. Seen our fantastic partners out there and tasting some whiskey with Classroom Events. And yeah, quick trip in and out for 2 days, but hot and humid as well. So 97 degrees and really 90, I think it was 95% humidity.
Like a fish, just breathing water, man.
Yeah. What's it here right now, Daz? What are we at? Like 13 degrees today, centigrade?
Yeah, it's dropped off. Last week was incredible, but yeah, this week it's dropped off. It's kind of back to normal sort of autumn weather, to be fair. No complaints. Oh, here we go. What does that say? Oh, come on. You can't just start writing little letters and putting them across the screen. That's not how you do podcasts, Mitch. No one can see that. They don't even know what it says.
What? Could you read it? What did it say?
It said Daz has a big C. I can't remember what it actually said. I know.
Pronounce it cunt.
Did you send the script?
No, there is no script.
No. Okay. Yeah. That's good. I was going to say, because that's usually what happens when I organise the episodes. Is nobody really knows what's going on, and until we start rambling away. And that's very much the case today. So it's great to be back, boys. Thanks for having me back. It's lovely to see you both. Today, what we're going to be doing is talking lots and lots about Distillers 101, and I'm sure you boys are really interested to hear about some of the lots that are coming through. One of them that I'm working on is, of course, the beautiful Bowmore. So that's a little bit of a heads up as to what's coming for the episode. Mitch, you got any?
Wait. Are you doing our intro? Remember, you don't do this job anymore, pal.
I had a question. So in order to finish this tee up of this episode, we'll see if you actually want to answer this question. Now that you're doing your new fancy job, right? Private client, all this stuff. Mm-hmm. We're going to see how much of a schmoozer you really are. So, right, this is the question. You don't need to answer it, but we'll know straight away from the look in your face. Which one's bigger? Your salary or your expense account?
Well, I think
there you go.
know. I think you both know it's my expense account, and it's actually it is very funny that you should mention it, because we had an interesting conversation this afternoon about that. So my boss is a guy called John Lomas, and brilliant guy, and he's been around the industry for at least 237 years, and he. We had a wee chat about that today. So yeah, let's move on. So
I heard they had to hire somebody else just to handle your expenses and doing your receipts every month.
I remember from my time at Diageo, and back in the day we were there, and I always had it in the back of my mind. I was like, I'll know I've made it when I've got somebody to do my expenses for me. And that hasn't happened yet, Nick. So it's work in progress.
You've not got those kids trained at home yet.
Goals, mate.
No.
Sitting down with the visors on.
Well, I tell you, they'll be a lot better at it than I am. That's for sure.
Brilliant. That's goals right there. So for everyone listening, welcome to this episode. As you may have heard, we've got Daz back on the show. He kept pleading with us. He kept just sending us emails, calling every day, said he was crying himself to sleep because he hadn't been on an episode of Not Another Whiskey Podcast for so long. So Daz, welcome back to the show, man. Great to have you here.
Woo! Nah, man. Yeah, thanks, Nick. Yes. No, honestly, I'm buzzing. It's so nice to be back. It really is. I have been knocking at the door for quite a few times just to see if I could get back on. Guys, I've just been to the whiskey shop. Any chance I could come on and talk about it? Any excuse? Do you know what I mean? No, but I think this one's a cracker. Actually, there's a lot going on over the next month, and yeah, we've got lots and lots to talk about, especially around Distillers 101. And I think that's mega, right?
Well, before we get into that, I want to get into that, and I want to know where my sample is that you were meant to send me yesterday. But anyway, we'll get into that as well. Tell everyone what you've been up to, mate. Not everyone knows what's been happening since you dumped me from the podcast, and I had to get a new co-host, much improved co-host, obviously, Nicholas. So
thank you, brother.
Yeah, well, before, I mean, yeah, since Not Another Whiskey Podcast downgraded, and went truly global. When I mean global, I mean it went West Coast. Loch Lomond, to be specific. No, I mean, it's all going well, mate. It's all going well. As you know, I'm looking after the sort of private client side for Beam Suntory. A lot of the
Never heard of them.
Small distiller, couple of wee farm distilleries, and the Bowmore distillery is taking up most of my time at the moment, and that's really exciting. One of the things I think that's always fascinating about island distilleries is they don't always have a lot of old stock, because of the past, and you do tend to see a lot of the really old whiskies coming from the mainland distilleries. There's a few examples where that's not the case, but generally that is the case. So it's brilliant, to get into those vaults and have a wee nosy around and rummage around and see what's going on. And there's a few things I think that have been brilliant. I've done a lot of work with a guy called Ron Welsh, who was the former master blender for Beam Suntory. And he's just retired as well in the last 6 months. So working with people like that who have that breadth and depth of knowledge and stuff is always one of the motivations for all of us, right?
100%.
And all your guests, whether they're new into the industry or have been in it for years and years, their levels of expertise and stuff like that are something you just sit back and listen and try and take it in as best you can. So working with people like him's great. And there's also Callum as well. So Callum's he's the new blender that's sort of overtaken from Ron, and he's amazing, like absolutely brilliant. And he's the one really over the last few months that's given me access to some of these very old, rare samples, and tasting those and getting access to those recently has been fabulous. So yeah, it's great. I'm loving it. I'm learning a lot. Bowmore's not a distillery I knew that well. I mean, I knew it, and I did drink a few Bowmores, but I didn't really maybe appreciate the subtleties within it and the flavor profile as it ages, especially it gets into that kind of plus 30-year stage. It really does transform quite a lot. I don't know about you boys, but what's your kind of experience with Bowmore specifically? Have you guys got a sort of soft spot for it, or?
Actually, it was the first Isla distillery I went to visit. So and it was my first ever Fegil festival. And that was the first distillery to it. So it really does have a special place in my heart. And the whiskies are fantastic. And you're right, you said at the start, a lot of island distilleries don't tend to have a lot of aging stock. And the main reason for that is because of the warehousemen. I think you can all agree. So,
well, I don't want to dob anyone in, but yeah.
Don't want to point any fingers, but let's start pointing fingers.
Totally.
Don't want to name any names, but let me just open up my Rolodex here. No, I think it's to me, Bowmore has always been one of those distilleries that it still has that romance around it. Like it's on an island, like it's right on the harbour front. Like it's just really, really pretty, and it's just a very tranquil kind of place as well, as are a lot of the distilleries that are on Islay. But Bowmore specifically, I think it's just a really beautiful property. It's a beautiful layout, still had the floor maltings and things like that. So it's cool. It's like cool. It's a cool distillery to go and walk around as well, with an amazing history.
Yeah, I mean, and to back that up, it's got this unbelievable tasting room, right? I mean, the view you get from that tasting room. But I think the best experience I've had with Bowmore, Daz, was when you took me down to Goodwood in the summer. That was pretty cool.
Oh,
little Bowmore experience in the in their VIP spot.
Yeah. That was really nice. I mean, the Aston Martin partnership is, it's brilliant, and I think I think the team has done a brilliant job on that. One of the first things I started to work on, if you remember, Mitch, was the ARC 52, Bowmore Aston Martin collaboration piece, and that's a really, really special, beautiful product as well. And in fact, the whiskey that we're going to talk about tonight is just another brilliant example of Bowmore from the 60s, and that as a decade actually for Bowmore is pretty exceptional. And of course, a lot of people, when you think of distilleries, there's usually like a release, isn't there, that you think of that takes you straight back to, that particular moment. And I think on Macallan, right, it would be 18 or the Grand Reservas, that really have made that statement for Macallan over the years. I think if you go to Highland Park, it's the Highland Park 18. I know you guys, your work at Grant's, I'm sure Balvenie and Glenfiddich have got one product that everybody at the distillery always talked about. Everybody in the market's always kind of gravitated towards. And on Bowmore, it's got to be Black Bowmore, right? In terms of the product that really defined it and really sort of changed the perception of what single malt whiskey can be, right? Not just Bowmore, because it came out in 1993, first of all. And really was one of the first single malt whiskies, maybe the first, to break that $100 mark, which raised a lot of eyebrows at the time. Now, bearing in mind it was distilled in 1964 and then bottled in 93, so a good 29-year-old that first Black Bowmore was. But Black Bowmore has become a bit of a myth, a bit of a legend, and it really has, I think, allowed Bowmore to become perceived as one of these sort of more premium, slightly prestige single malt whiskey brands. And in the 90s, that was something that, was in its very, very early days.
When we're speaking about all of that, totally tuned you out, to be fair.
Sorry.
I'm only joking. Actually, I went to my whiskey shelf behind me to pick out a bottle of Bowmore, and I've got it's the Feshiel bottling from 2012. It's a 15-year-old that was non-chill filtered and at cask strength. It's 55.4% ABV, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Like, it's just a fantastic. Actually, I bought two of them, so I've got an extra one back there. They're not supposed to sell you two. It's supposed to be just one, but because I didn't live in Scotland, I kind of put on my puppy dog eyes. And the fantastic people inside the shop allow me to take two bottles, so I put two in my suitcase. And I've still got, that's the first bottle. I'll share it with selective generosity, but it's a fantastic whiskey. And it makes you feel like, it's like a flashback to being at the distillery. Like, it's just so cool. Just like, it's like being on the island. It's just a brilliant nose, and the smoke's there, but it's just so much more going on in the glass. Like, that's what I love about it. It's not just a peat monster. There's a lot of floral notes and really bright, like, they still get the new make flavors and all the citrus and apple notes and some of the kind of waxier notes as well that are there.
I'm really pleased. I'm really pleased, actually, you mentioned apple. And I do find Bowmore, to be quite expressive. There's a lot of different flavors going on, as you've just sort of talked about there. It's it's not just one thing, lots of, supported by lots of wee things. Everything that shows up almost with kind of equal presence, right? So you've got like apple, spice, bit of molasses, maybe even treacle coffees and all that sort of stuff. And there is this underlying rhythm of smoke, but it's not that punchy, the smoke. It's a medium peated single malt. It's not that heavy. What tends to happen is that flavor shift from like apple, as time goes on, it starts to drift into tropical, which is quite peculiar, right? And that's one of the things that we'll talk about in a wee minute. But Bowmore at about 20 to 25 years old starts to develop some of these exotic fruit characters, and it moves away from orchard fruits. And the smoke, as it drops off, it intensifies that kind of tropical fruit into like baked pineapple, spiced pineapple, mangoes, and papayas. And what's really fascinating about that is that's not really what you associate with old whiskey.
Yeah.
And it's very peculiar, especially in that era of the 60s and the early 70s, where we see a lot of that coming through. There's probably a number of reasons for that, but yeah, the 15-year-old, not that one particularly, but generally the sort of 15-year-olds I've tried from Bowmore, I haven't actually tried that one, is the balance of the house style comes through very well. I think you get a feel for everything that's going on in the glass with the 15. The core 15 does that as well. And actually, I think the 15 that's just, the core range 15, it tends to be the kind of guys at the distillery's favourite as well. That's their go-to. Yeah, for that reason, all those flavour profiles you mentioned.
Yeah, it's cool. And it's just a nice touch. Like, it's all hand-filled and things like that as well. So it's cool.
Yeah.
So, Daz, what the fuck do you do in your job? What does it entail?
What do I do? Well, typically 90% of my time is dedicated to ignoring people like you. And then
I've noticed.
Yeah.
He's mastered the Rubik's Cube though.
yeah, totally. And then 10% of my time is looking after people who are really looking to collect and build beautiful collections and really enjoy our single malt whiskies. And it's not specific to Bowmore. It could be on Glengarry. Glengarry's got some lovely old stock, and a few of the other distilleries there as well. Lefroy is one that everybody knows of. Lefroy, you don't see a lot of old Lefroy knocking about. There's been a few 30-plus-year-olds. The last 40-year-old that came out from Lefroy was 2001. So there's not lots of old stock at Lefroy. Kind of going back to the point we were talking about earlier on, just because of the nature of the game in the past. Lefroy wasn't laying down stock for a long time. That's one of the weird things I think that, with Bowmore particularly, is that, that's something they've been doing regularly for a while. If you look at some of the age statements that were put out in the 80s and the 90s, there was 30-year-olds coming out of Bowmore back then, which was, not normal for distilleries in Scotland, especially the island distilleries. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just looking after some of the rare products and connecting with collectors and drinkers around the world and trying to help them get access to them. And within that, what it means is it means I get to go to Islay a lot with people that are traveling into Scotland, to source some of these bottles, and that's really good fun, Yeah. And one of the things we talked about this in previous episodes, but the Aston Martin's at the distillery, the DBX Bowmore edition.
What did you like to call it? The company car?
The company car, yeah. Well, it's becoming a wee bit. I am hogging it. There's no doubt about it. But no, that's brilliant, and it really does bring to life. It's a great way to see the island. It brings to life this brilliant partnership that we have with Aston Martin, and it's a great way, before visiting the distillery and doing the tasting and just getting a bit of a feel for, what's going on Islay. And then, of course, after our little spin around the island, we can go and have a few nice whiskies to sort of sit back and relax and enjoy what Islay brings. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing. Yeah.
Nice, mate. Sounds good. Sounds good. And I think it must be quite an exciting company to work for right now. I mean, you kindly got me hooked up at Glengarry. It was the first time I went around that distillery. It was great to see the floor maltings being put back in there and start working again. There's expansions going on for Lefroy right now. There's all the stuff going on with Aston Martin and Bowmore. So, I'm sure there's a load more behind the scenes that you're not allowed to talk about right now, but it seems like there's a lot of growth within the whiskey and this whiskey section, of Beam Suntory, right?
Yeah. It's the first company I've worked for where Scotch maybe hasn't been the priority.
Yeah.
Right. And you've worked for William Grant's. It's a whiskey business. Mitch and I, when we were at Diageo, it was very much becoming a whiskey business. Most of the work we did, definitely towards the end, was very focused on whiskey. I think Beam in the past has, been very focused on their American and Japanese brands, and the Scotch brands. They've not been neglected, but they didn't get the same amount of energy that maybe the other brands from different parts of the world sort of came from. So, it's great to see Scotch get a focus. And I feel that, there's a huge amount of appetite and energy now going into the Scotch brands. And as you say, bringing back a floor maltings, bringing back direct fire wash stills, extending fermentation times across the distilleries back to kind of how it was in previous years, pre kind of 90s, is brilliant, right? That's all the stuff that helps you make great whiskey. And that's definitely something that, the whole industry is maybe recognizing now, but Beam's way down the tracks on that. So really exciting time, big investment going into distilleries, lots of exciting stuff happening across the brands, and then some brilliant stuff going on in the rare whiskey space as well. We do have some brilliant aging stock, and that's the stuff that gets you really excited, right? It's so much more than a job when you get access to these types of things, because it's not just about working, right? It's about learning, it's about getting a feel for things, and hearing about, how things were done in the past and everything. And we all love that. And I know a lot of the listeners from the questions that we used to get, I don't know if you get questions anymore, because you probably know everything, that you can just tell everyone what they need to know. But it's, the questions that we used to get.
You've been reading my mother's book of backhanded compliments.
But that's something that a lot of people that don't work in the industry always wonder, was that laid down on purpose? No, of course it wasn't. Those people didn't know what was going to be happening in 2023. And I was really lucky. I was at a dinner on Tuesday night, and Richard Patterson was at the table. Now, I won't give away Richard's vintage, but he's 2 or 3 years older than me. And, we're sitting down and just talking. It's even him, the way he's talking about it, it's still like there's new stuff happening. There's, and he's still learning, and he's so open to hearing what else is going on in the industry. And you're just like, I love that, that sort of hunger for it.
Yeah. Mitch mentioned a little bit earlier, obviously there'll be some stuff that's going on that you're not allowed to talk about, right? What would some of those things be?
Yeah, totally. I mean, well, let's get it all out here, right? Let's get a fully unedited version going on. But I think there's probably a few things that, well, I don't think a lot of people knew about Glengarry going back to floor maltings, bringing back direct fired stills, and just some of the things that happened within that. And they do run kilns, right? To dry the barley, like they do at the kind of, there's 8 distilleries in Scotland that are still operating, right, with the floor maltings. And most of those have peat or coke-fired kilns. What I was quite surprised to see at Glengarry was almost like a heat exchanger blowing hot air up into the kiln floors, so you don't actually burn any fuel. So that's the first time I've ever seen that. I was really kind of taken aback. I saw it attached to the side of the kiln, and I was like, is that what I think? Is that a heat exchanger going? And it is, yeah. And I was quite, because obviously there was no peat and no coke knocking about. No one's stoking the kiln. And I was so blown away by that. But I don't think a lot of people might know that. And we'd love to bring that back to some of the other distilleries as well, where it might benefit flavour. And that's something I'm sure the team are looking at. And don't mind me saying they are looking at that.
might be an edit coming up here.
Yeah, totally.
This episode's under embargo until 2025.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be the first time we had to edit an episode after we've put it on air.
Yeah. I'll be back in 3 months as a regular co-host again, boys. Don't you worry about
that. No, you won't. Anyway. So outside of that, so obviously you're spending quite a bit of time back in Islay. Are you traveling internationally with this new role as well?
Yeah. Mate, I've been out and about. It was really cool to get back over to Asia. I was over in Singapore, Taiwan. I went to South Korea.
Very
first
cool.
time I've spent any time there, really, and it was amazing. I didn't realize actually just how much of a highball culture it is. And actually, very similar to Taiwan in some ways. The food and drink culture is like hand in hand. Lots of drinking with Korean barbecue. Obviously, a lot of local spirit consumed there. But whiskey, I didn't see as much single malt as I do in Taiwan. It's not as strong, but there's a lot of really good like highball whiskies going down. So good blends, premium blends. A lot of Japanese whiskey. Suntory is massive in South Korea, and the highballs. They've got these things, right? They're like vending machines for like highballs.
Yep.
I guess it's almost like a post-mix McDonald's unit. That you push the button and your cola comes out. You push a button, your whiskey comes out, and then you just pull a lever and it fills it with ice. But they're pretty sophisticated. They're really quite the measurements and stuff are bang on.
Yeah.
And they don't miss a beat. And the ice cubes are incredible. They're like one of those ones. If you like threw it at a car, it would like go through the door. You know what I mean? It's like those really heavy, solid ice cubes. Brilliant, like really, really good.
Even at the airport in Tokyo, it's on a similar thing. Like when you push it, if you go to which I'm sure you do, I'm sure you fly business class or whatever when you're doing those long flights out across the world, right? But when you go into the lounge, they've got a beer machine and you just put a glass into it and it automatically tips the glass to the right angle and auto drafts it and then rotates the glass as it's continuing to pour the draft so that you get a perfect beer. And then it flashes the kind of cream foam onto the top of it. So you get like this perfect, 1.5 inches of perfect head on top of your lager. Like this is just the thought of everything. You're like,
an inch and a half ahead's normal for you then.
It is, aye. It is.
Can we just take that as a soundbite? An inch and a half of perfect head.
That's the name. That'll be the title of the episode. Inch and a half, just the tip.
I know.
Just for a second, just to see how it feels. Aye, very good.
Can I just say, I love the fact that Daz brought the recite back in there by saying, like, it's an ice cube that could smash a car's window if you threw it at it.
Not a better analogy there like that. Not just a really well-made, handcrafted ice cube. No, you could really do some damage here.
Honestly, you could put a few dents into some serious metal with that, big man. You know what I mean?
Scalp your Aston Martin.
Totally.
Oh man, that's funny. So actually, funny enough, talking about South Korea, I like that what you were talking about, the kind of food and the drinking culture. What I like most about that, especially in South Korea, is it's also a community culture of people getting together to enjoy food and drink collaboratively to the point where you share everything. And I remember we had guys coming over when I worked at Macallan from South Korea, and they brought like South Korean GQ and all these magazines and press, and then the team were coming over, so it was like a press trip, and we took them out for just lunch, just to like somewhere in Aberlour, like just like a soup and a sandwich kind of thing. And as the food came to the table, people were kind of sitting chatting away, and then I ordered a bowl of soup, and as I looked down, was two guys with their spoons in my bowl of soup because you share everything. And I was like, of all the things you probably wouldn't share, I don't mind if you get your fingers in some French fries or whatever, but a bowl of soup. And they were like, oh yeah, we share everything. I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah. Just a wee double dip. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Obviously, that was pre-COVID days. Do you know what I mean? Maybe things have changed a little bit now, but at that time, it made me smile, and I was like, you really kind of bond with people over that process of sharing food and drinks together and stuff.
So that's exactly it. So we went to this place called Hot Cho, which has become a big sort of thing on social media, and I think it's Japanese/Korean pancakes. And what they do is they put them into like a hot griddle in the middle of your table, and that's exactly it. You slice them all up and you kind of dish them all out, and some people do just dive in, right, and grab bits and just scoff away. And it's so communal, and it's lovely because the highballs all land. You're drinking highballs, you're sort of cheersing across the table, and it is a real community piece. It's I'd love it if we could develop some form of that here, but what we need to do here maybe is start eating and drinking at the same time as a starter, and then maybe we can look at some sharing stuff thereafter.
Yeah, we do. We separate the two, don't we? You go for a bite to eat, and then you go sit
two totally different sports, man. Like absolutely, it's a really British thing.
Very true.
I agree with that.
So let's chat about the one of one, Daz. Then, what are you guys gonna do with that?
Yeah, well, so Distillers 101, it is genuinely about creating one-off pieces that are amazing, eye-catching, that really get people excited. So excited that they can't really help themselves but go all out and get something that is a real statement piece for their collection, or something that they just love dearly, and will hold on to for many years. And like Distillers 101, when it first started in 2021, we had Jonathan Driver on, right? And he joined us for the episode, and it was amazing to hear about them doing something for good, and helping disadvantaged young people in Scotland, help them get into work, give them opportunities that maybe they never had at a younger age. That's something we can all get behind. Some of us can relate to, and I think that the industry as a whole coming together to do something like that and to generate funds for such a good cause is really special. So Bowmore did the 51-year-old Onyx in 2021. And this year we're going to do a product called Stack, which is an incredible piece that's really been inspired by the sea stacks that just sit off the coast of Islay. And it's the oldest Bowmore that's ever been released. So it's we've gone all out and created a 55-year-old that was distilled in 1962 for this. So it's obviously sat in glass now for a few years, but we feel that this is the right opportunity to let it out there in the wild.
I love that bottle as well. I mean, that's a ballsy move, because you look at that bottle, and for those listeners that haven't seen this yet, I would say about 3/4 of that bottle is just black, right? Obviously relating to the stack. And then just the smallest bit at the top just reveals a bit of glass and a bit of the color, which, for an old bottle of whiskey, that's probably the first time that's ever been done, not, revealing the whole color of the liquid.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's a real sort of it's a real glimpse, isn't it, into the color of the whiskey. And naturally at that age, I mean, it does hold a lovely color anyway. It was a refill hogshead, actually, that it was full maturation, so it's not too dark. It's not like a first fill sherry cask, but it's got that lovely golden amber hue. It promises lovely rich flavors, and it certainly delivers on that as well. But yeah, no, I agree. Like it's quite an intriguing design. It definitely makes you want to look at it more. And
Yeah. Is there a story behind the designer that you guys used for that bottle at all? Or?
Yeah. I mean, the designer we used is a guy called Lexi Burgess, and Lexi is an amazing guy, and he's worked in the whiskey industry for a number of years and has created some of the most outstanding, distinctive bottlings you could ever imagine, and some of them are so weird and beautiful and wonderful that you could never imagine them, which is why you go to Lexi, right, to help you come up with these. And yeah, Lexi's an amazing guy. He's a real whiskey lover. I mean, he's totally committed to the industry, and but he's also about storytelling, right? He always wants to bring whatever the inspiration can be, he's always looking to bring that to life in a really dramatic way. So it's been really cool working with Lexi on it. Yeah,
I'd love to have heard that scenario with regards to the design. Right, guys, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide all the colour of the bottle apart from a tiny wee bit at the top.
Yeah, totally. No, it is brave. It definitely is brave. But it does stand out. It looks incredible. You might not know this, because I don't know if you've read like the press release and stuff, but it's a Magnum, so it's a 1.5 litre bottle. So it's an amazing piece. Yeah, and it's not small. You can imagine the kind of height it would need to be, because it's not that wide at the bottom, and it does get quite slim as it moves up towards the top. So it's a beautiful piece, and it is quite a statement. I think it will become the pride and place, of someone's collection, wherever it goes. Who knows where it will end up, because the auction.
Did that designer ever used to mold plastic, or is he always just done Lexiglass?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck's sake. There's always one.
Hey, do you know what?
I'm sure,
right? Have you got like a wee side job where you write these jokes that go into like Christmas crackers and stuff like that? Like, they've got to come from somewhere, and I'm certain it's coming from you. Like,
there's a job waiting for me doing headlines at the Scottish Sun. I think. This whiskey and malarkey doesn't pan out. I'm writing puns.
Exactly. Totally. But yeah, so that's where the design comes from. That's where the sort of inspiration comes from, and the opportunity to get your hands on that, is through the auction, which is on the 5th of October, and that's when Distillers 101. There are a number of lots. I'm not sure how many exactly. I think there's between 35 and 40 lots in the auction this year round, and the Bowmore stack I'm certain we'll be grabbing quite a few headlines at the end of it.
Yeah. What's the estimated target for them to reach? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, Onyx went for 400.
Yep.
You know, and that we hope we can
400,000. We should just clarify, right? It wasn't 400.
Sorry,
not
yes,
400 pounds.
Yeah,
like it was a bargain.
Yeah, totally. So there's quite a few listeners going.
Somebody looked out.
Just writing the date down. Yeah, that sounds all right. Yeah.
Let's manage expectations here for.
Mitch and Nick are going 200 in each. That's it. It's all done.
Exactly. We all don't make your kind of money, Daz. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. I mean, I think if it, what would be wonderful if it raised anything between 3 and sort of 500 would be an incredible outcome, right? That would be really good.
Yeah.
In the tradition of us doing this, Daz, let's do a little guess what everyone thinks it's going to go for, and whoever gets it right, whoever's the closest, has to get the beers in next time all three of us are together.
Okay. I'm going to go. I would love to see it go for 550. 550,000.
What do you think? 550,000 going once.
I'm gonna go 486,000.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go 600,000. I'm gonna go north.
Wow.
I'll tell you why. Yes. I think it's going to go there because it is so limited, and it's a brand that people want those rare one-offs on, and there'll be a collector out there that's got something else that wants to put this as the jewel in the crown. That's my guess. 600.
Love it.
And mostly I don't want to win because I'd never want to drink beers with you two. So
this is just your
like $1 billion.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. So look, and it's where the funds are going, right? That's the key, and it's all for a really good cause for the Youth Action Fund. So the 2021 auction raised £2.4 million for that. Mitch and I don't actually think we had this conversation, but I went to what they called the impact launch, where they showed you, exactly where the funds went and the good work that it went into, and actually met some of the guys and girls that had benefited from the funds that we raised in 2021. And it was amazing. Honestly, yeah, honestly, it was so good. It was genuinely probably one of the best nights I had last year, because I actually wasn't really sure what the format was for the night, which is not unusual for me. And
that's just when you're sitting in with the missus.
Yeah, totally. And I went with Susie Davidson, who looks after a lot of the great work that we do on these releases. And we were both blown away. We were both absolutely blown away by it. And
nice.
Yeah, so that really actually it made us even more committed to creating something really special this time around.
Right. Was there a particular story that stood out for you?
There was a young guy actually that was from a sort of poorer area in Scotland, and it was more so like the way that he talked about the confidence. He didn't feel like he didn't back himself. He didn't really feel like he could go after things as much. And what the Youth Action Fund was able to do was to give him a bit of mentoring and allow him to sort of feel his way through building his confidence, in a way that worked for him. And he got a job at the end of it. He was thriving in that environment. And,
right.
and just to see that transformation in someone, he got up on stage and presented to like 100 people, and did it so brilliantly. And he knows who these people are. These are people who stand on their feet presenting to hundreds of people every day. That is not an easy thing for any of us to do. Anyone whose profession it is to do that sort of stuff. And he absolutely smashed it out of the park, and it was just amazing to see. And I had a chat with him afterwards, and he was just buzzing. He was just so pleased that it worked out in a way that's helped him in his life and has now set him up. It's given him a foundation to work from, and to go and be a success in whatever industries he chooses. And yeah, that was just one guy, and there was 2 or 3 others that had similar stories, but different experiences and things. But it shows you that it works. It shows you that we're doing something for a brilliant cause. And if Great Single Malt Whiskey can do that, then happy days. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Now that's the thing, and not just the charity aspect of this that's obviously a huge part of it and the main part of it, But the other thing that I love about this is it just shows how connected all the distilleries and all the companies are within Scotland. The fact that we can do this, and every company's doing this, producing a one bottling specifically for this and coming together collectively, which makes me very proud to still work in this industry.
Yeah, I agree.
Totally. And guys like Glencairn, right? It's not just distilleries. Guys like Glencairn are all in on this as well. Like they're really supportive. I know they've got a couple of people working for them through the Youth Action Fund. So it's not just lip service. I mean, they're genuinely trying to help people, giving great opportunities. And businesses like Glencairn are a great example of that as well. And it's sometimes easy to forget that there's so many other things going on around this industry other than just making whiskey and products. There's suppliers, there's a whole network of logistic people, that there's so many other elements. There's great technical support, engineers, electricians, tradespeople, and all that sort of stuff. So there's loads of opportunities, in the industry, especially around Scotland, where it's we've got so many different things going on. Great people like Glencairn are really supportive as well. And some of the packaging businesses and stuff are involved too. So super exciting.
Very cool indeed. Well, thanks for being a part of it. Thanks for the team at Bowmore as well for doing such a wonderful job and having something that's going to hopefully drive that value and get as much money as. I mean, I'm sure Mitch could have benefited that from his younger days. I'm just assuming this, Mitch. I don't know about you, but in and out of juvenile detention centres, probably. I'm guessing. I don't know what spotty past yours was, but either way.
What was that young place that they used to send people? Young bad. Oh, yeah, Stuart's Melville. Yeah. That private prison.
It's a miracle. It's a miracle he's kept himself out of Berlin. Let's call it exactly what we see here. But anyway, obviously the whiskey industry doing a little bit of good there. So like all of this great stuff, right? We've talked about the packaging, we've talked about how rare it is, but what's the actual liquid like? Walk us through that.
Yeah, it's. Do you know I mentioned this earlier about the 1960s Bowmores, Black Bowmore coming from the 1960s. The Black Bowmore is actually a very different whiskey to this. This is going back to 1962, and in 1964, what happened is they removed the direct fired stills and put in steam pan stills in 1964. So Black Bowmore was the first run on the steam pan stills. That's the kind of story. That's the kind of the product story, I suppose, behind the Black Bowmore. This will be direct fired stills going back to 1962, all distilled in late September of that year on the same day. This would have been 100% floor malted, direct fired, and then placed into a refilled hogshead for all of its days. It was taken out of cask in 2017, which is why it's 55 years old. And I think just what it is just an amazing example of the shift that you picked up in your 15-year-old, which is appley. It's got all of these lovely spicy kind of fruity characteristics that surround that, and this sort of undercurrent of smoke which sits under it, sort of smolders away. Like the smoke drops away after about 20-25 years, and that intensity of tropical fruit starts to pick up after about 25 years. And the apple and orchard fruits and pears and stuff does start to drift off as well. So what you end up with in the 55-year-old is this brilliant tropical fruity, subtle spice just lingering away in the background, and then kind of keeping it all in check in terms of this balance between sweet and sort of what I would say is like astringent is the wood characteristics coming through, because it's spent a long time in oak. You're going to get that oakiness coming through, but that's a real pleasant experience because it gives you that little bit of grip and it gives you that wonderful texture. It's quite syrupy, very viscous on the palate. So yeah, that's just a wee bit about the whiskey. I do have a sample set aside for you both, just a tiny smidgen. So Nick, when you come back to Scotland in 2038, there'll be a sample here waiting for you. Yeah.
I'm actually going out to see him in a couple of weeks, mate. So if you want to send them both to me,
I'll do that.
Yeah,
and then we'll next time we're recording over in New York, we'll drink it together.
Well, actually, on that note, have you got any travel plans to be out in the States at all?
No, I don't actually. I don't at the moment. My travel plans will take me back to Asia between now and the end of the year. So if I will be in the States, but it's going to be next year now. Yeah.
Right. Well, let us know, and we'll make sure we have a dram or two together. And
100%. I would love
we'll
that.
rally a few collectors for you, right?
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah. Lovely.
Yeah. Well, on that note, Daz, it's been a pleasure having you back on. Never a chore. Yeah.
Pleasure's
Nicholas, I've got to say that.
Do you mean that? Prove it.
Prove it.
Now, honestly, no, it's so nice to be back, and you know, be nice to me. You know, when you do talk about me, I know you miss me and stuff, but you know, you are allowed to say nice things sometimes. But no, it's a real pleasure to be back on and keep up the amazing work. And maybe we can do a quick jump on post auction and grab a 10 minutes, and we can see who won the bet. And I can let the listeners know just how it all went. But obviously, they can follow Distill as One of One on Instagram and things like that, just to see how it all goes. And they can follow Bowmore online as well on Instagram, just to keep an eye on how things are moving. If you haven't seen the bottle, boys, are you going to post something on Not Another Whiskey podcast?
Yeah, we'll put it in the cover.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm going to send to you as well? If you want to put a really nice photo up of me, I got some headshots done a few weeks ago.
Ooh, sexy.
Is there any chance you can throw it up instead of the video right now?
Yeah.
How about that? Has it been a tough day in the office, mate? Oof.
Yeah. I know. It was actually quite a tough night the night before the photo shoot.
Looks
you
like
always
it.
do that, don't you? Yeah.
They take you out for drinks and then they're like, cool, the photo shoot's at 7:30 in the morning. Look good.
7:30 in the morning. Don't bring your red eyes.
Exactly.
Did the headshot involve like half an inch and a perfect head?
Yeah.
Did they manage to capture your hobo chic look?
Yeah, they did. I did tidy myself up a little bit for that one. I put a shirt on and a tie and everything. I was looking
Nicholas, you know he prefers lumbersexual, right?
Oh, there you go.
I'm going to Google that on my non-work phone after this. So not only will the expenses guys hate me, the IT guys are going to hate me as well.
You're a walking, talking liability, sir. But all joking aside, it's been lovely to catch up with you. You're looking really well. When I grow up, I want to be just like you. So thanks for inspiring us. Thanks for sharing some stories and talking to us about your whiskey.
Cheers, lads. Brilliant.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Daz.